You know, in our world today, pretty much everything we do leaves some kind of digital trail. A secret, a crime, it all leaves breadcrumbs. But how do you follow breadcrumbs you can't even see? Well, that's where digital forensics comes in. It's basically the art of being a modern-day detective, but you're swapping that magnifying glass for a hard drive. So, in this explainer, we're going to dive in and see how it all works. All right, so here's what we've got on deck. We'll kick things off with the big question. What is digital forensics really? Then we're going to see it in the real world and check out the actual tools investigators use. We'll also get into why preserving that evidence is so important. It's a real make or break situation. And finally, we'll tie it all together with the huge data challenges we're all facing today. Okay, so first things first. Before we get into all the cool high-tech detective stuff, we got to lay the foundation. Let's ask that basic question. What is digital forensics? So when I say computer forensics, what pops into your head? If you're thinking, oh, that's just getting back a deleted file, well, you're not wrong, but that is just the very tip of the iceberg. Okay, so at its heart, forensics is really a four-step dance. You've got to collect the data, preserve it so it's not changed at all, analyze it for clues, and then present what you've found. The whole point is to dig up evidence that someone tried to hide or delete or that's just scattered all over the place. You can call it data recovery, you can call it computer investigation. At the end of the day, it's all about one thing, finding the truth that's buried deep inside the code. And this stuff isn't just theoretical, you know? It's happening every single day in places you might not even expect. So let's take a look at where these digital detectives are really on the front lines. You'll see forensics fighting battles on two main fronts. On one side, you've got law enforcement. For them, it's all about solving crimes, right? Recovering deleted files from a suspect's laptop, tracing digital footprints. But then you have the corporate world, where the same exact principles are used for internal stuff. An HR department, for example, might use forensics to investigate a harassment claim, or maybe to prove that an employee who just quit actually stole a bunch of company secrets on their way out. The tools are the same, but the stakes, totally different. So how do they actually do it? I mean, this isn't just some random chaotic search. It's a super structured process, and it requires a really specialized toolkit. The whole thing is designed to leave absolutely no digital stone unturned. So here's the playbook. Step 1, and this is the absolute most important rule. Protect the system. You can't change a single byte of data. If you do, the evidence is totally compromised. After that, it's a deep dive. We're talking about finding every file, the deleted ones, the hidden ones, the encrypted ones. Then you move on to recovering them. They even look in places most of us don't even know exist, like something called slack space on a hard drive. It's this weird little area where fragments of old deleted data can just hang around for years. Incredible, right? Now, to run this playbook, you need some seriously powerful tech. Investigators use software, like something called SafeBack, to make a perfect bit-for-bit mirror image of a hard drive. That way, the original evidence is never touched. They've got tools to analyze that file slack we were just talking about, special software to sniff out data that's been intentionally hidden, and trackers to follow a suspect's every move online. It's basically a digital arsenal, all designed to find that one single crucial piece of data in an ocean of digital noise. Okay, but finding the evidence, that's really only half the battle. Because if you don't collect it in exactly the right way, all that work could be for nothing. That piece of evidence could be completely worthless. So what we're about to talk about, you could argue it's the most important part of this whole process. Having a strict professional methodology is it's non-negotiable. So why is it such a big deal? Well, for a few reasons. First, it guarantees the evidence isn't altered or damaged. Not even a little bit. It also prevents things like a virus from contaminating the whole system. And of course, it makes sure that any private information is handled legally and ethically. But the biggest reason, the most critical reason, is that it maintains the single most important element in any investigation, something called the chain of custody. And we really need to focus on this for a second because the chain of custody is, well, it's everything. It is the clear, unbroken, documented record of every single person who handled the evidence, from the very beginning to the very end. If that chain breaks at any point, even the most damning slam-dunk piece of digital proof can get thrown right out of court. It is the absolute bedrock of any legally valid investigation, period. All right, let's zoom out a bit for our last section here and see how all of this connects to a much bigger picture. Because the principles of forensics, they're not just for investigating something after it's already happened. They actually tell us a lot about how we should be protecting our data every single day. So why is being proactive so important? Get ready for this statistic, because it's a bit of a shocker. Right now, nearly half, 45%, of all the data sitting on corporate networks isn't being backed up regularly. Just let that sink in for a second. That is a massive amount of valuable, vulnerable information that is literally one wrong click away from vanishing forever. So what's going on here? Why is this happening? Well, the reasons are all over the map, but they're all depressingly common. Sometimes companies have these tiny little backup windows that just aren't long enough to get the job done, or their network design is just bad. A lot of the time, though, they just don't have the skilled people in-house who know how to manage these really complex modern backup systems. It really is a perfect storm of logistical and human challenges. And part of the issue is that our whole idea of what a backup is for has completely changed. I mean, it used to be just for the big catastrophic stuff, right? A fire, a flood, a total disaster. But today, backups are your first line of defense against things that happen all the time, like an employee accidentally deleting a super important folder or a random bit of data just getting corrupted. So what does a good, modern solution actually look like? Well, it's basically a four-part plan. First, you got to take a hard look at your current strategy and ask, is this thing still working for us? Second, you need to put systems in place to make sure nothing slips through the cracks. Are all the databases getting backed up? Third, automate everything you possibly can. That cuts down on human error. And finally, you have to build for speed. Use things like parallel tasks to make recoveries fast and efficient, because at the end of the day, downtime is money. And that really brings us full circle, doesn't it? We've seen how investigators uncover secrets hidden deep within our devices, and we've also been reminded of just how fragile that data can be. It leaves us with a pretty crucial question, one for all of us to think about. In a world where data is everything, is your most valuable information truly safe? Thanks for watching.